that cool?
Yeah, man. So yeah, welcome to another episode of Sin of Finance. I'm CS.
Omar Jr.
Michael.
Sam.
Daniel.
Craig Pinkney.
And Speedy on the chair, who's not paying attention.
Sorry.
But yeah, we got a full table today.
That's nice.
Mikey, I'm gonna let you take it.
All right, guests, thank you for coming. Just want a brief introduction from everyone. Who are you? What do you do? And what's next for you in the year to come, soon as we're at the end of the year? Daniel?
So, I'm an artist for the last, say, 7 years. I've been doing portraits and bespoke artwork for various clients across the country. But now for more financial reasons, I just started to progress my talents over into tattooing. New studios opening up in Birmingham, should be within the next week or two, and just moving that forward now. Plan for 2024, get that popping really.
Can I just take that back? Because can you just name some of the people that you've because you've created quite a decent following for yourself. Can you just name some of the celebrities that you've done artwork for? And I'm a friend of yours, and I've seen your artwork and I've seen the journey. So can you just elaborate on kind of the start, what got you into it, and some of the art pieces, please? I
mean, the start of it, I've always been able to draw since school times, as you both know, Mike's as well. Funny enough, it was Michael that started that step. Had a little connection for me. Did a portrait at Nines, got plugged. From there, it just escalated. Done work for Nines, done work for Scraps, Fredo, a lot of these UK artists. But obviously 7 years ago before they blew up, so it was just hitting with all of them. A lot of the clients are from London, a lot of the money comes from London, and it just boomed from there really.
So how was it transitioning to doing tattoos and stuff?
Like, you know what it is? With the portraits and that, it's like only certain people want portraits, and you can't cater to a big population with portraits, especially with the time involved to do the portrait. People don't want to pay that money for the portrait. Only certain people do. Whereas with the tattooing, like, it's still art at the end of the day. It's just a different medium you're using. So you move over into the tattooing, you got a bigger audience that want the tattoos, you get me? So it's better for me to do that.
So people are more willing to pay for the art that's going to be on their skin rather than...
People more like, they'd rather have tattoos than they would a portrait of their family in the yard, because they can go out and show off to everybody. It's more vanity than that really, isn't it? Yeah. Tattoos are there to exhibit. People like to exhibit their stuff. I got this, look at this.
What's the maddest tattoo you've done?
What, place or...
You said it, you get it.
Nah, you don't know where too magical. I've had clients that have their own face tattooed on them, which is a bit vain, a bit mad, isn't it? Like, well, I just try and like change it up to be more stylized. If you're gonna have your own face, cool, but we'll stylize it. Change it to like Chicano style or something like that.
Okay.
Dr. Craig?
So my name is Craig Pinkney. I'm a criminologist, urban youth specialist, and I run a group of companies that covers kind of training and development, social care. 2024, completing my PhD. I'm in my final year, and progressing with one of our children's homes. Just got an email today that we just got accepted by Ofsted to open our second children home.
Well done, man.
So
Congratulations.
I'm in a good space, so I don't want to do too much next year, because that's my focus year, and then the real level up 2025 is to come, God willing.
I hear that. I think it's important to just kind of, for those that don't know, like the amount of history you have within the city and working with youth. Like, you're going for your doctorate now, but that comes after, over a decade.
Yeah, man. Of 2 decades now. Yeah, I left school with practically nothing. I went straight into youth work. So I feel like I've watched the different times and spaces of how working with children and young people in a range of different environments has kind of evolved. I've watched the impact of, you know, the recession going back to 2009, 2010, the impact of that up until COVID-19, and then now we're dealing with the second ripple effect of a recession. So I've kind of been blessed to see all of that, but in a very weird way, been blessed to work with some of the country's most challenging and violent children and young people. And I guess my role and the work that I do through one of my companies, the Centre for Youth Violence and Conflict, is about how do we look at violence at its root, and providing 3 levels of our work. One is around professional development for organisations and practitioners that work in a range of settings, from education, criminal justice, social care, youth and community, to be able to respond to those issues. The second level of the work is about how do we mobilise communities. So these conversations, and again, thank you for the opportunity to be here, how do we get communities to be involved? And then the third level of the work that we do is about how do we raise awareness, how do we build resilience and offer children and young people therapeutic interventions, and that's what kind of I'm all about.
Cool.
So basically, your business model, is it predominantly surrounding like funding?
And also my business model is based on products and services.
Services. Okay.
So I sell my expertise. So training and consultancy. I have some of the leading experts, a part of our organisation, that are clinical psychologists, therapeutic practitioners, individuals that specialise in criminology. You know, some of the leading thinkers like Dr. Martin Glynn. If you don't know these names, you need to look them up. Dr. Elizabeth Fitzmaurice, Sean Monaghan, Daniel Balgrave. We've got quite a long list of individuals that are well known. But then we've also then got young people that, young men, should I say, that have lived a particular life journey, and we've trained those individuals up, and they now deliver some of the mentoring in the workshops in schools. So some of you are familiar with Fidel Thompson and Kareem White. You know, most of you will know his nickname, but I'll leave you all to know that. But that's kind of what I've created on one element. So funding is not necessarily our business model. I believe and have seen funding does have a benefit, but oftentimes I found that some commissions and funders, they kind of use that kind of carrot and kind of box you into what they want to do. Okay. So how I resolve that problem is that because I've got a number of other companies like the Children's Home, I utilize the money that we get from that as leverage to finance the work that we do in the community. Okay. So therefore, we're not waiting for the government to do something that we can do ourselves.
Okay, that's...
What was one question? What was the vital... When was it where major cuts were made from government and local councils to youth services in the community that made a big impact that we're still dealing with today?
So there's been loads of political changes, you know, throughout history, but I guess the ones that I will identify with, which everybody will remember, is that period between 2009 and 2011. So this is when we were switching from a Labour government to a Conservative government. You all may remember David Cameron, and he came in talking about his broken society. And I guess where a lot of the services were mainly cut was not just youth and community, children's services, as well as policing. And what we start to see is a decline in terms of resources towards particular communities that were deprived, communities that were facing acute poverty. And then what we've seen over those 10 years, and we had a prediction at that particular time that loads of things are going to happen. You may then remember the riots that took place 2011. And I think what was utilized at that time was a scapegoat. And that scapegoat, if you remember the TV, if anyone remembers, depending on your age, you may remember that video of them young men that were shooting at the helicopter. Do you remember? And that was getting played over and over and over again. But what was significant about that particular period is this was the injustice that took place in London following the Mark Duggan case. So whilst we had a distraction of that incident that was played over and over and over again, what the government would have liked us to believe was that the real reason why we had the riots was because of gangs. Interestingly enough, 2012 then becomes the golden year, because that was then the introduction of the ending gangs and youth violence policy. And then on the back of that particular policy, we had certain legislation, we had certain policies, we had certain rules. Police had particular powers, youth offending, probation had certain powers, housing association had certain powers. And we've seen the adverse impact of the change of law and policy and legislation in the way it's impacted those communities that have been adversely impacted and the ones that have been so deprived. So when we look at these kind of conversations, we have to talk about what I talk about in my work is one, the racialization of crime. Number two, the intersection between race, class and gender. And what we start to see is that there's always a boogeyman that is presented as the problem. And when you look in the communities now, you start to see that the individuals that are oftentimes blamed are the children and young people that unfortunately engage in, whether it's drug dealing, whether it's carrying knives, whether it's carrying firearms and utilizing those. But I ask more of a critical question. Where did these guns and where did these knives and where did these drugs come from? And I think those are the conversations in terms of my work is about understanding one, where the root cause of the problem is. When we're talking about politics, we're talking about economics. And I think there's also a spiritual warfare that I don't think we oftentimes talk about as
100%.
well. And I think these things also play a part into the wider system that is enables the destruction of our local communities.
Thank you very much, man.
Omar.
My name's Omar Jr. I like to think of myself as someone who's on a journey. I think, was it 2020 I decided to turn my life around, and since then I've kind of been recording my life on Instagram, social media, and I've been partaking, kind of diving into my interest a little bit, whether it's like men's mental health, bringing people together. That's it really. I don't really think, I can't really pull it into one thing yet. I think I'm still diving into my interest. Going forward for next year and the next few years, I want to get to a place where I'm self-sufficient. What I mean by that is getting paid off my experience, my knowledge, using that to get paid rather than working a job. And that's similar to kind of Craig. So over the next few years, that's where my aim is. I've gone back to uni this year, currently studying a psychology degree. So next year, I'm more thinking, what else can I do? What other skills can I add to my resume? What's my limits? What's my potential? Where does my education take me? Where can I take my own body physically, my mind mentally? What's the level of discipline I can acquire? All of these things. I'm just in a curious space about myself at the moment.
Yeah, man.
I think he sold himself short a little bit, man.
100%, man. Can you touch on the discussion nights that we've
about to say,
there?
come on, bro. This is how you're linked up.
Yeah, you know what? I thought about this last week and I said to myself, I think it started off, I was kind of curious what everyone's doing, because growing up I've seen a lot of people around, whether it's like the Craigs, the Michaels, the Sams, the Speedies, and I always thought, what do these guys do, man? And I thought, you know what, how do I then start getting into these rooms? I thought, maybe I won't be able to, so let me create my own. Started trying it with people I know or people's friends of friends, and I thought, you know what, let me get uncomfortable, let me ask someone that I don't know or someone can't vouch for me, like, excuse me, do you mind taking part in this? And it started creating a little thing where it's like, you know what, whether it's, I don't call them randoms, it's just people that I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, people that I would like to meet. So then started creating this group, I would say, almost opening a room, like a safe zone for a lot of us. And I noticed it started diving into two ways. One is more like business mindset, networking, and the other is like mental health, men being able to speak on how they feel and what they're going through. And I realized as it's going on, we went to a gala together, thanks to Craig who invited us. And you've seen the atmosphere, you've seen the room, you've seen the table, you've seen the vibes. I stepped back and said, wow, we've actually got something here. So it's people that didn't know each other have now come together. And when you've got other people in the room saying, oh, you know what, do you guys know each other? We're like, nah, we only met like less than a year ago or so. Like, oh, I want to be a part of this. And that's when I realized we might be onto something here. For the long term, I'm still thinking, how do we then scale it, get more people in, because my house can't facilitate everybody. And where do we go from there? What else can we do? And what I also like is that it kind of filters down through the ranks. So for someone like me coming up, having access to a Michael or a Craig or anybody else in this room, it's like, it's kind of a privilege. But then how do we then, for the youth coming up, like there's a bit of community work? How do we then open it up so then it's like a triangle where it filters down to the, not the I wouldn't call it the bottom, but to everybody else who is trying to come up. How do we open up the resources? How do we open up, whether it's like a mentorship, whether it's like an education channel or whatever? I'm still figuring out how do we then structure this to then scale it on a bigger scale.
Yeah, man.
There's two things that I want to pick up on. The first thing is, me and Omar are actually going to be hosting an event, 3rd of February, at Bijou Lounge. It's called Mixer or MXR. The idea is to encourage networking, get a room full of people that wouldn't normally be in the same room together, and have a lot of activities and games that would encourage different people to move around and actually speak to each other, encourage confidence in people to explain what to do or what they're trying to do, with the hopes that they can connect with someone that would either give them spark of information that can help them on that journey or actually collaborate. It's something that will be ran quarterly, starting off small. The first one's just a tester, but it's a very serious tester. There's going to be 50 spaces available, may open up if we oversubscribe, but I'd like to encourage everyone to come. It's a ticketed event, but the idea is that it is an education on how to network with the guidance of people that know how to do it.
Yeah.
Hosts that actually will go around and someone's back's against the wall, they're a bit shy to come on, you're gonna have to do it to the point where they'll come out of their shell and they become who they're supposed to be. For me, I feel like there's just not enough time anymore. The world is speeding up, and like you mentioned, there's a lot of different kind of forces, whether we know it or not, against us. We're running out of time. We have to, whatever it is that we're trying to do, whatever we're supposed to be, let's encourage each other to just get to that level now, and really bring everything to fruition. The second thing that I picked up on is you saying you want to be self-sufficient. In 2024, the goal is to be self-sufficient. Please explain what self-sufficient is. And I think that's actually a good starting point for us to just go around for everyone in the room and just give an idea of what is self-sufficient to you. Are you self-sufficient? And how did you get to self-sufficiency, or how will you get to self-sufficiency? So those 4 questions. What is it? How will you get there? How will you know when you're there? And what steps are you putting in place to get there?
For me, what I mean by that is getting to a stage where your experience, your knowledge, your skills pay you. Because I kind of feel like I like that art of business. But when I look around, there's loads of saturated markets. There's not an idea that's not been done before. And the most, I actually learnt this from listening to a guy called Unveiled online. And it's the most kind of unique business model that you can have is yourself. So whether it's your story, your experience, your skill set, your personality, your network, that's the place that you will find that unique business model. That's where you'll be paid more than anything else.
So really working on your personal brand. And
yeah, it's almost your personal. That's exactly what it is. It's your personal brand. For me, how I want to get there is what I really believed my lane is probably bringing people together.
I was going to say that still.
I think that's my lane, and I struggled to kind of admit that to myself, because growing up, we come from the ends. You don't want to know anybody else outside of the ends. You don't. So now to get to the point where you networking with people who are in different ends, different cities, different industries, it's like totally outside my comfort zone, where it kind of feels like that's just where I live, where I'm good at. So for me, that's where my self-sufficiency will be. Being able to execute that, bring that to life, and somehow modeling that in a way where it could pay me recurring.
I want to go around the table that way, so CS then Speedy, but just put that, like I hear what you're saying, and a lot of people will kind of have those same ideas in their own way. That to me is like the theory of it. In practical terms, how will you achieve that in 2024? Just give me like 3 simple steps that you're going to take to actually achieve that. I know what you're trying to achieve, but what does it actually look like, just in a very practical way that anyone could apply? Do you know those steps yet?
To an extent, what I would say is the event is a good way to start. Building up also content. I would say for me, it's actually getting what I'm doing out, getting my story out, getting what we do out there, because a lot of people know about it, but they don't know about it. Does that make sense? I would say that's where I start. I haven't thought about after that. I just thought just start.
Okay.
When I take that step, then I'll think about the next.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I wanted to, because there was a question that I wanted to ask you in it, but you kind of touched on it, which is
That's good, man.
yeah, it's like you already said, like the thing that you want to sell is obviously yourself, and it.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to understand, like what is the service or what is the thing that you were selling. So like with Craig, I know you use him as an example of the structure that you would like to use in terms of him, selling consultancy and teaching people about his area of expertise. I was just trying to get a better understanding of what your area was, but you just mentioned it. It's networking and bringing people
say
together.
It again. If someone says, well, what are you selling? What's your area of expertise? What would you say your area of expertise is? I know you're saying I get people together, but I think that can still be polished.
Yeah.
And if the team's gonna go away and split this into reels and get quotables.
Yeah.
So you've got like a 5-second window to say, I'm Omar and this is what I sell. In 2024, someone asks you, what are you actually selling? What are you saying?
For me, I want to create an environment for men to network and also be themselves. Be able to, I would say, connect with people who they wouldn't be able to connect to on a normal day-to-day basis, and also create environments where men can actually express how they feel.
Okay. Yeah, I get it more clearly now.
Okay.
Self-sufficiency for me is, I would say, creating my own ecosystem. I've said it for ages. I still haven't achieved it yet, but there's this law called The Power of 1,000 by Kevin Kelly, and it says all you need is 1,000 people to be self-sufficient in it. So if you've got 1,000 people that spend 100,000 with you over the space of 12 months, that's 100,000. Obviously, it's not massive bread, but 100,000 is still 100,000. That will allow you to pay your bills and not have to really worry about anything within reason in it, because obviously everyone's expectations or the things that they want are different. So you can multiply it. It could be a person that spends 500 with you or 1,000 with you, doesn't matter, but it's just like having an ecosystem of people that buy into and believe in what it is that I do. That's self-sufficient to me, basically.
I hear you 100%. Why do you think you're not there at the moment? Or
I don't have 100,000 people.
What do you need to do to get 1,000
I
people?
just gotta be more consistent. Gotta put myself out there more. I gotta be more. I don't want to say buzzwords like relentless, but like I've realized through conversations on here, Speedy, like there's an element of fear that I didn't realize that I had in it. But my fear is the fear of failing. You get what I'm saying? I don't like. I hate getting shit wrong. Even in here, like if I've made a mistake, I will overreact once the mistake's been made, and I'll act like I'm never gonna make that mistake again. But it cuts me deep. Like I just don't like it. You get what I'm saying? And it kind of comes back to what you were saying at the beginning in terms of time. I don't like making mistakes because I feel like there's time that's wasted, but it's the wrong way to look at it, because I'm looking at how I now have to spend time on rectifying the problem, and that's costing me more time. But I have to make the mistake to learn the lesson in order for me to be faster.
And I
That-
just
you
wanted
get what I'm
to
saying?
just kind of chime in there, because I just wanted to say this from my observation of knowing you for so long as fellow sneakerheads and being able to work with you or whatever. I see you in mad talent, bro. But I've always wondered, and I'm glad that you just touched on that, is like, why are you not? And so talking and expressing, and thanks for sharing about like those fears and stuff like that. What I just find is that sometimes it is about how do you relinquish the assumptions sometimes that are in your mind, and how do you just really get it. So you was hasty to use the word relentless, but I was thinking, why not? Because as Michael said, everything's moving so fast, and it's about how do you not necessarily jump on the train of moving at 100 mile an hour, but how do you be able to execute in a way in which utilizes people to understand your services? Like it was only really until I started really paying attention to Sinners that I was like, no way. CS is like the cameraman behind these types of things. And I guess what I'm saying is that you're talented, bro. I'm also saying
He's
is
not the
that
cameraman.
Man, man. Sorry, I'm talking in terms of the
Yeah,
system.
yeah. It's not just the camera.
Don't cost me. Don't cost me. But I guess the point I'm saying is that you've got a mad talent. That's my point I'm making. You got a mad talent. I believe your contribution to the community in a range of different ways. You have to choose wherever you fit within that. But we as collective need to find a way to bring that forth to the forefront.
Like, it's just me though, bro. Like because I've had endless opportunities in front of me that I haven't even realized were there. But where somebody would have taken the opportunity and ran with it further, I've held back because I'm thinking about if I fail, how would that ruin relationships or how would that affect me? Do you get what I'm saying? So without me, I swear my life, like this is like over the last 2 weeks that I've come to this realization, and through this geezer here.
You know what it is? You see the podcast, yeah? You see this podcast? This is what CS is supposed to be outside his head, where you're saying to relinquish them things of when you're saying relentless. So if you see everything that's going on here, I just told CS to come in here, and why I'm saying is not the cameraman, is his input to everything and everything that I've learned and everything that he's acquired in terms of a team in here is what he doesn't do in his personal business. I've had to force it out of him, but I'm trying to show him, bro, you're doing it here. You can do it in your for any other business model that you have. It's the same thing. So, like, when I say he's not the cameraman, he doesn't edit anything or do any of them things. I do it, but I only get these skills from him, though. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And he don't know that I've learnt them from him. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
In the service. Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, he doesn't understand that I'm forcing that out of him, and he needs to learn to teach others to create the business of his creativity, of what's in his head, instead of doing it himself.
Then, just to probably add on, if you probably already looked at that already, one of the things that maybe from your events that you're kind of creating is something around self-belief, and how do we overcome the fears, because we'll talk about this in a moment, because I had my own fears too. So I hear you when you're talking. So maybe as opposed to just networking as well and getting people to come out of their shell, but looking at some of the key principles about how do we get out of that procrastination moment? How do we get to that place where, you know, we're just like that warrior in the cage, because it's a process. And I think a lot of people, and I think social media, unfortunately, the challenge with that is because people see things at the polished end, but they don't really see the graft, they don't see the hard work, they don't see the years that gets put in to get to that particular point. So yeah, that was just kind of a thought just off the back of point that Speedy.
You know, I'm gonna let you ask your question in a sec, but I'm glad you used the word fear. I'm glad you showed that vulnerability, because I'm sure you'll find that everyone in this room has had to overcome some fear at some point, and probably still is going through certain fears.
Word.
You know what I mean? I 100% resonate with that. And the fear of failing, the fear of looking like a fool, the fear of not being able to make that jump.
Mine isn't about looking like a fool, bro. I don't care about how I look, because I don't care about what people think in it. So, like, see me, I'm like a hamster in a wheel, bro. Man's running, bro. But I've realized I ain't really gone that far, because I'm doing the same thing over and over. I think I'm working harder, but I'm not, though. And it's out of the fear of failing and wasting time, not looking like a dickhead.
Okay.
Like, I don't care what people think. Like I said, I've had endless opportunities in front of me that people would kill for. I've been in rooms with bare different people. Man's made links with all of these, and I could say, yo, let me handle that. I know I can do this job. Let me handle it. I've never said it because I'm afraid of ruining a relationship or me doing something that has an impact on the overall situation. Do you see what I'm saying? Not me looking like an idiot, but it's more
ruining someone else's situation.
Yeah, like all of them kind of things. And it's just like, I don't need to worry about any of that, because I am who I think I am, and I definitely can get the job done in it. So, like, I need to just take that risk and say, you know what, even if I can't handle it, say that I can and see what happens.
Jump in there, Omar.
Now, my question was going to be, like, what would you say to your older self? Say if you was having a conversation to, like, your 80-year-old self, and they're telling you you could have done more, what would you say? You right or nice?
No, obviously, like, I mean, that's hard to say, because, like, that's hindsight. And if I was speaking to my older self, I'm only going to be speaking from the perspective of who I am now. Do you get what I'm saying? So whatever I'm saying now is what I think it's the other way around. Like, what would I say to my younger self?
But you know what it is though. That's where the power is though.
Go on.
Because at the end of the like in some ways the older self does exist because you're going to become that person. You're working towards that person. Can you pull that person into the present now and have them speak to you now and be that person that you need to be now? Because you do need to be that person now. You need to be someone other than who you are right now, the better version of yourself. But that person only exists until you manifest it and you bring it into fruition right now and become that new person, a person that has the opportunity, is in a room and says, yo, I got that one. You don't have to hire no one for that. I can do that. When do you become that person?
Obviously, I'm saying I have to become that now. Do you get me? So like the question, I'm just trying to answer the question that he asked me. And what I've said previously before he asked me the question is what the answer would be. I have to do it now. I can't be afraid. There's nothing to worry about. If it goes wrong, cool, it goes wrong, innit? But just do it. Like, and believe you are the person who you know you are, and don't be afraid. Like, that's what you get what I'm saying? But I've got confused based off the question that you asked me because...
Would you say my way of saying it is similar?
Yeah, he gave you context.
Yeah. You get what I'm saying? But I just have to go. Like, there's no time to waste, and don't be afraid of whatever happens, because regardless of anything, there's always an opportunity to change it. You get me? But I am good at what I do. So
let me throw that to Daniel, because
Self-sufficient. Are we doing that?
Sorry, I still want to go around.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about the fear, I can't imagine more fear than being an artist drawing on paper, then taking a needle and then drawing on people.
Going left.
Can't get that wrong.
Yeah, going left with the pen.
No, how was that transition like? Was a fear involved in?
Yeah, how do you find that? Like,
No, there was a bit, but obviously I had a good mentor in it, so he's brought me through, guiding me. You make a few missteps along the way, I'm not gonna lie. But
On people's skin.
yeah, but
bro, don't hold your hands up to that, you know.
but you have to be real with it. Innit? So when you're starting, you do you offer it out for like free. People are willing to offer a free canvas for you. You get me? And then you'll do it, and then you'll learn from your mistakes. You learn a lot in life from your mistakes.
No, of course.
It's like mashing up a man's hairline.
Yeah, but that's gonna grow back, bro.
Yeah, but just as a disclaimer, the mentor would come in and actually
Yeah,
qualify
yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, the mentor's at a standard where anything, if I made a mistake, he can fix it. And he's at that level. It ain't no light thing. It's there and it's patterned. So I offer out like the free sessions or discount sessions so I could do my thing. And then anything goes wrong. It rarely does, but if anything did go wrong, it's there covered.
Sure.
my question to you, artist to artist, and the thing that I struggle with the most, I know that we're kind of going off course. We'll definitely get back to the original question that Mikey said. But how do you see the business growing if you're the business? Because you're the artist.
That's a good one.
Do you know what I've always found? And this is from my drawing as well. It's the brand of you know.
Yeah.
Like, treat yourself like a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci, innit?
Yeah.
People I found with drawing for these famous people. People want my artwork because I've drawn for these people. So my name's got something to it now. I'm not massive, but you've drawn for him. He must be somebody kind of thing. Your name becomes your brand.
My question is though, let's say person A wants a tattoo on Monday at 12 o'clock and person B wants a tattoo at Monday at 12 o'clock.
Practical terms.
Yeah. What do you do? How do you facilitate the both of them? Because that's where I am right now. That's my question to you is like, that's the business, isn't it? Like,
You have to increase your price for a start.
First come, first serve, innit?
that once, before I go, like, that's technically then not business. That's you owning a job. I mean, I'm not saying this to but this is where I am right now, and I've built my whole thing off me having a name and being a guy that shoots this and does that.
But you're so valuable, yeah.
Yeah.
Or what, whoever the artist is, that somebody will have to give. Like if they're knocking at your door for your value, you know, you're not begging for the custom. So it's not like, yo, bro, you can't do Monday 8 o'clock, so I'm gonna go to someone else.
And I think that's where the conversation about scaling comes in. I haven't heard that word yet. So yes, you are the personal brand, but then when someone's coming to you for the brand, then it is now about what's also part of that brand. So somebody might want to contact me and says, Craig, I want you to deliver I don't know, at a conference that's going to have some of the leading figures in the country, and if they're calling me because they need me at 12 o'clock, and then let's say another big company also say, Craig, we want your services at 12 o'clock. I've also got leading experts that also sit alongside me. So when we're talking about scaling, yes, you are the brand, but we still have to then figure out how do you develop your unique selling point and create it to a range where it becomes a product. Just like you mentioned Louis Vuitton, but Louis Vuitton's is a franchise. You know, you've got different parts of the franchise. You might have the Virgil drop. You might have then the collab with somebody else, but it's still Louis Vuitton.
They ain't relying on the one checker print.
They're not relying on that. So it's about how do we start to think about how to scale these particular things based on our particular brand. So in practical terms, because you've used that particular word, that would then mean is then maybe then as a side thing, you open up a school for artists and then you bring them up to a particular standard, and then it's not just about you as an individual. You then potentially, just like barbers, go to the artist or whatever, but when you're gone doing that 12 p.m. meeting in London, someone at a very good level is also responding to you at that particular point. But that's where this conversation about scaling and branding kind of comes in. So when I come to your shop, I might not be able to get the main barber, but the barber that's sitting at the other chair is also
Just as good.
Do you know what it is? It's a different kind of thing, because you're looking at it in the context of, any tattoo's the same. Whereas if you look at it in the feature of like art, like you establish your style, your own thing, and people want you because that's your.
No, I'm agreeing with your point. So that's why I use myself as an example. Nobody's going to have my skill set. Nobody's going to have my knowledge. No one's going to have my personality, my charisma, and the way in which I deliver. I'm agreeing with that particular point. But what I'm saying is that there is going to come a time, if the question is obviously if you want to scale, that's the second question. So if you're saying that you don't want to scale the whatever,
I think I got a good way of putting it.
Can I jump in before you? I'm you, bro. Yeah. So like I've started this on
I know what the
purpose.
problem is, yeah.
So what I'm saying is though, or you could take the route that I can see that you want to take, where you become the best artist
100%.
ever, and then you're charging a premium that most people aren't able to charge.
And
Of course, I get
this is
that.
the artist dilemma, where if you're looking at like a business, you have to be the artist that creates the house under which many great artists come from, and then we go from there. Or you can become a Picasso.
100%.
The two lanes, but it's just like now, like man's paying £1,000 an hour for your time, if you can even get your time, versus you got a few people out there getting a couple £100 an hour. But
so the standard's still high, but it's not you, and that's what I was saying. I agree with the fact that you are that level.
I think because I enjoy art, I'd rather it be me.
And you know what?
Yeah.
As long as you're admitting that and you're saying that, then that's fine.
Yeah, and that's why I said that's why I said
fine.
But the way that you raise
raise
that is to leverage the names that you use, like Nines and whoever else, to higher your price.
That's the only thing you can do.
That's the only thing you can do.
So
or maybe
that would be your scaling.
You can teach as well, though.
Yeah, but if you did want to scale in the future, then you could work on your branding so much that, say you was, say, £1,000 an hour, somebody would happily pay £900 to someone that's been trained by you, because they're still going to be not far off.
But the problem with these, man, they ain't gotten past that point yet. They ain't gone past that point.
Sometimes an artist may not want to scale though.
That's what I said. That's why I said it's a choice. I said if you want to scale. So, for example, that was something that I was dealing with for many years. Like, I'm the person. Like, I'm doing this unique study. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. How am I going to really think about it? And then I said to myself, you know what? It can't just be me, because I'm getting tired. This stuff's traumatic. So I have to start thinking about the impact. So whilst I can increase the prices, it doesn't relinquish the fact that there's so much of a need. So I've then had to think about a way in which I can do that. So yes, equally, it's not me, but I've got a team of individuals that I've vetted to ensure that they're the best of the best. So exactly our clients will be is that, so I've had to change the way in which I promote our services. I think that links to the question that I was asked earlier on. So for a perfect example, someone might say, oh, they've looked at our prospectus. Oh, we want therapeutic interventions. That's never delivered by me. But you know that the brand is coming from Craig Pinkney. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it is about, okay, you know, if I'm going to send somebody, it's not just going to be a random person that's just kind of started. It's going to be someone levels in their own field.
They're vetted by you.
That. Yeah. So it is about that. But I totally get exactly what you're talking about. I totally get what you're talking about.
because this geezer's making me laugh at it. Because everything that's being said now is what he's been saying to me. And everybody on the table, Mikey and Sam, you get me? They've been saying this from the get-go, bro. And I've been sat there with the same look on your face thinking, like, just thinking in it. Like, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, like I hear you.
I hear it, but I'm not hearing it, though. But I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
I can see
could
it
never
more
be
now.
another me.
Just like a-
Personally, with CS though, what I see is obviously he works with the massive brands, yeah, and there's opportunities within them where you could say, "Yo, I can do X, Y, and Z. Give me $100 grand a year." It's as simple as that. You get what I'm saying?
But you need a team.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
Well, he's
saying.
got the team.
If I pull it into conclusion to my point, you need a team.
Yeah.
So you have
You're
the
gonna burn
best
yourself out.
directors that will do things. You know, Spike Lee. Spike Lee's going to come with a team. Premier League football clubs, the man at the top is going to come with a team.
Even the
so
footballers have a team.
nobody's not saying that the person that's in demand is the only person that can complete a particular job. If you had a team of individuals, I've worked at universities for 10 years, you've got individuals in the university in the department that are the best of the best. But when you go into the department, you don't only meet that individual, you meet the individuals that are around that have been vetted and trained by those individuals. So if I come in now and say I want a video, for example, I might not be able to meet the main man unless I've got a relationship or two, I can afford it. But you're going to meet essentially a team, but it's coming from, and that's why I used like the Louis Vuitton as an example, because it is about that. But that's all dependent on if you want to. So that's why I said I respect the idea that you're saying that you want that to me, but that was me for a long period of time. But I'm trying to be global. So I have to now.
I think that comes
of-
with time, though.
That's what. That's why I said two.
They're at a different part of the
Nah,
journey.
you know what it
100%,
is?
that's what
it is.
Michael said.
I think it is time, but it also comes. It also is like where your brain's at. So if you're coming from it from an artistic perspective, and you're the person that's doing the artwork.
Craig was doing the artwork.
No. I know that, but his is over time in it. So essentially, when you come into it, he was still trying to be the main man. You men have come in and do what you do, but you haven't tried to be the main man from the beginning, because I just feel like you're not. It's not coming from a creative.
No. You're wrong.
Okay.
Craig's just said that he had those same thoughts.
You're wrong. And I would even say,
I said that.
No, he's not talking about Craig. He's talking about Speedy. Am I right in saying that when you're saying we're coming from a
Nah.
different point of view?
I'm not talking about Speedy. I'm just saying a lot of people who will come to the table who are coming from like a business perspective. If it's not from a,
I would so just to be clear, my business acronym only really came the last 3 years. I left the university when I had the belief that I could sell who I am on my particular brand January the 6th, 2020. So business is new to me, if I'm being honest. So because I was the brand, and that's why I was saying to the point, I'm not minimizing the fact that you are the artist, but in our different industries, we are the artists and we are the ones that go through the trenches, but it gets to a particular point. The question is, what do you want? So when you ask that question about being self-sustainable, in my head I was just thinking about what does that freedom look like, and that freedom is that just like when I was on the ground, on the streets, working in all of the ends, working with the young people, I don't do that no more. So my positionality now is I want to teach the young bucks that are coming up now so they can do it, but it's coming from the same source. And let me just use one more analogy and then I'll close. When I go up and down the country and I speak to youth workers, social workers, whatnot, do you know I'm able to identify who their lecturers were when they went to university? And I want to say, who's your lecturer? And I say a particular name, and they're like, how did you know that? Because of what you're saying and how you're moving and how you're articulating and the way you're framing because I know it comes from a particular school of thought, a particular methodology.
That's
so that
a process.
That means the individual that taught you, they've took you for a particular type of rigor. So when I talk about our courses, for example, it's interesting that when you look around the country and people say, oh, that individual started that company and they're doing this and they're doing that. When you look at who their teachers are and their mentors are, it comes from a particular line. And I think that's old tradition that you pass down mentorship as it goes along. But I just want to make it clear that what I'm not saying here is that in order to, be self-sustaining and to be an individual that reaches to the kind of the top of the mountain, that you have to have a team. But I think the key thing that you mentioned is time. And I think everybody in this room is gonna be in different places. So 5 years ago, I would have said the exact same thing as you guys. But my position's changed in terms of what I want and where I want my reach to be, and therefore I've had to come to that realization that it can't just be me. I have to think of a new way in order to be able to engage. So if I want to engage with 1,000 kids, I need to think of a team of workers that I can teach certain individuals so they can go out and do the things at that particular level. No, it's not Craig, but it's coming from Craig's loins.
Can I just say 2 things based on that? One, even just the way that you're talking there, and you mentioned I want to go global, is something that is sparking a thought in me, because I'm thinking, like, at the moment I am I'm not even regional, I'm city based. I want to go regional, and it's like, all right, well, I'm in the process now of understanding what my role is so that I could train up in the next 12 months an operations manager. So it's a case of, what am I actually doing? What is reasonable to delegate to someone? What is not reasonable? The stuff that's not reasonable, why am I even doing it if it's not reasonable then? How can that be systemized? How can that be processed better? And then the stuff that I am doing that is reasonable, well, how much should I be getting paid for that? How much should I expect to pay someone for it? That's one thing, as in, when you're ready to step out of that role, how much and what would it take for someone else to do it? It can take time to do that. It's not something that should be done overnight. You have to analyze yourself and say, well, if I was not here, what would it be that what would it take for someone to fill this position?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, you mentioned footballers and football teams. Even the footballers themselves have a team. Dietitians, nutritionists, therapists, physios. They have a team.
People that do education.
Imagine like the star players for all these teams. They probably have a team of like 20 people running around them just to make sure that they can remain a star player. That they would not be a star player.
I see that in football clubs. 8:30 in the morning. The changing rooms full of individuals helping them.
You don't even know who they are. So if you are going to be that person, you still need a team, even if it's still going to be you, and you are going for the £1,000 an hour or the £100,000 contract. You're still going to need a team because you can't be doing that. You shouldn't even be making your own sandwich.
You shouldn't be
and you know what it is?
You're supposed to just walk. You're walking late, like ready to film. Boom. That's it. You get me? If you're gonna do that, then you still need a team.
100%, and that leads on to how I was going to answer. So I was going to say, actually, I'm trying to learn to be less self-sufficient. So to rely on others. I feel like, especially coming from the inner city, we're trying to rely on ourselves for everything, and to be highly effective, you need those teams. Your teams need teams. You need to do that.
But coming up as well, it's almost a sign of strength to be self-sufficient. I don't need no one. I'm my own.
It's a weakness,
force.
man, because you can't do everything.
Yeah, I think you also have to kind of understand the kind of teams they are, because you can have a team to kind of maximize your work rate. You can also have a team to kind of scale your business, because for footballers, they have a team to maximize their work rate, maximize their performance. But say, for example, for Michael, you need a team to scale your business. It's not about your personal performance. It's about...
No, I think it's both, you know.
It's maybe both, but it's more leaning towards...
It's like someone like Craig.
Like my therapist, she's just as equal as my head of operations.
Yeah, it's true.
She don't work for me.
It's
but
true.
what she's able to enable me to do is format. So, for example, you know, one of the things I talk about being self-sufficient, you know, going into 2024, one of my things is rest. You know, I'm reading a book called Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey, and she's talking about this idea about grind culture and the fact that the way in which we grind
Ourselves down.
Our imagination. So that's why I'm saying I'm hearing you, man, when you're talking. Like, I get that because you guys are artists. You know, I've got one of my facilitators is a creative, and he says, Craig, I don't understand this business thing. Just tell me what I need to do and I can do it. And I say, you just be a creative, just show up when I need you to show up. And that becomes so important. So rest also becomes equal. So when I interpret the concept of team, yes, I don't believe that my business can scale unless I've got those family, the support mechanisms, you know, my therapist. And then you've got people within the workplace that help you to get to that point. Because if we're the unique selling point, which we're saying that we are, I need to be right, my health needs to be good, my thinking needs to be straight, or everything's just going to go left, and then that standard in which I'm talking about is going to be reduced because I'm not on my A game. So I looked at that analogy about performance, and I interpret that as all-encompassing.
It's almost to say that the star player's role now becomes something different from a top striker to maybe a manager or something, where the manager still needs another team, but it's not the team now that's massaging his back after the match. It's or a PA that can help him get to
The PA,
certain
the
contracts
EA,
and
the
the
senior leadership.
Right. So the level just goes up.
Yeah.
But he still needs to, the manager of that team now, he's still going to need to go see a therapist to work on his relationship at home,
Yeah.
to manage his stress levels, to go to the sauna, so that he can come back and then shout at these other 22 guys to make sure that they're doing what they're doing.
And my perspective only comes from my work that I do in the Premier League, and I watch what happens on the inside. Now, we've got the privilege, because we do a lot of the education across the Premier League around a number of kind of issues that take place within football clubs, but also in terms of building up players around their role modelling, their mental health, issues to do with their relationships and so on and so forth. So when I walk into a club, for example, Chelsea, at 8:15 in the morning, they're all with all these different individuals just doing the different mechanics before they get their education. So when I then meet other people within, for example, the club, you know, the chef plays a really integral role to their nutrition. You know, the woman that works in finance plays an integral role. And we all know if the finance lady's not good, no one ain't getting paid. You get what I'm saying? So it's interesting how we look at, and I'm saying as a collective, we kind of look at what people's roles are and what signifies something that one would see is worth of talking about. And I think these things become really important to the conversation, because it is about the conversation about, you know, being self-sustained. And I think for me, it's about freedom and what does freedom look like. And I think it's important to kind of acknowledge that we're not on the same page. It's okay not to be on the same page. So when I'm talking, it's not to minimize what you're thinking, but equally, it's not about for you to be confused either. It just is what it is, and you find your journey in the way that you find your journey. So I can say self-efficient for me is being able to put myself in a situation where I'm able to rest more. But that's all I want to do. I want to rest more so I can be.
Have your time
I
back.
want to dream. I want to use my imagination. You know, I want to utilize that for me to become one with my creator. I want to utilize this opportunity that whilst I'm scaling, I'm opening the door to the mandem and people in the community that are prepared to work. By the way, let me just make that clear. And give them opportunities. But then that's also about how do I then think about my children? You know, how do they get and benefit from that? So whilst I'm trying to acquire what I look at in terms of freedom, whether that is economically, whether that is spiritually, whether that is based on my relationships and so on and so forth, it's going to require me to have a team. So I'm saying I'm trying to do my PhD next year. I've been employing people even more recently in order for me to be able to do that, because soon as January comes in, I'm not trying to come to the office for about 3-4 months. So I need to know that the mechanisms are in place in order for me to rest, for me to think, for me to dream. That's going to enable me to then 2025 we're doing a mad thing.
Yeah, of course. You need that. You need those gaps in your journey. They're very important, and I feel like that people don't concentrate on that enough. Actually,
People don't really get the opportunity to, because it's a rat race.
Yeah.
Most people don't even get to the point of conversation where they're even thinking self-sufficient. That's not even something that comes up in a...
But that's where we talk about imagination, and that's why I always love the conversation with people from the arts, because they tune into that part of the brain that generally most people don't, because whilst we're working in this capitalist society, we believe that grinding every day of the week, 24/7, and we've all been guilty of it. But what it actually does is counterproductive.
100%.
Because actually, when I find a rest and I'm seeing my therapist and I'm going to the gym, I'm more productive than I am when I'm trying to do the 6 till 6 or the 6 till midnight the following day. And if I just work 4 hours throughout the day, I'm probably more productive than I'm ever. So we're programmed, and I think we get to a point of a realization, maybe when we get old and we get mash up, that we get to a place where we realize that maybe this wasn't a process. So it's about how do we work smarter and not harder. And it is about how do we start to think about ways in which we can support. So again, the younger guys that are coming up, we're giving them the cheat code, but we're also giving them a real life conversation as well, and say that, you know what, the commitment also requires, so in my world, you're going to have to study. I can't see any other way of how you're going to do this. Why? Because our kids are dying in the community. So I'm not hearing people just saying, listen, I'm kind of, got a little bit of a talent or an insight, or, I like doing this particular, or want to do this particular type of work. And for me, that's enough, because I wouldn't send my son to you. I need somebody that has a skill set. I want to have somebody that's around me that understands what it is that we're essentially doing. because just like any other science, any other, profession, you have to have a qualification. Now, it's not all about going university and stuff like that, but when I use the word qualification, I'm talking about going through a level of academic rigor that you're able to be objective in the way in which you work in a particular type of way, and then you're able to utilize that knowledge, that resource, to meet the needs of the people that really help in my world. So when I translate that in terms of some of the things that I see you brothers doing in the world that you do, we're kind of doing the same thing, but it's just about positionality. That's the word that I want to give you all today. And all that just means is, where do you sit within the conversation? So earlier on, you asked me a question about solution to some of the problems, and I'm saying there's not one. It's about you finding your position and you being okay in that lane. And once you discover your lane, you know your lane, stay within it and just keep driving.
Brother Speedy,
Yo,
self-sufficiency. What does it mean to you?
for me, yeah,
How
it's
you
just
get there?
how do I get there? Constant reinvestment. So it's not taking money out for any other purpose, but to reinvest till I can get to a stage where everything's in-house.
Is that
When
only money?
everything's... Say again?
Is that only money you're talking about?
Let's talk about peas,
At the moment, yeah, because
Okay.
it's the money that's the reinvesting the money is a snowball effect to what I want to see as everything being in-house in terms of not having to outsource anything, accountancy, web development, any kind of online stuff, any kind of construction. You know what I mean? I just want it to be all in-house. So, like you said, when I have a dream, someone's already on the books to make it happen, rather than me having to look for quotes and all, outsource and all these things. So,
You
like-
mentioned second gym.
say again.
You mentioned the second gym.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm trying to get a next gym open. It's a major task. It's very, very, very big.
Is it harder than the first gym?
Just a different task, It's just more. It's just fine. It just works out differently. You know what I mean? Like less construction, more finance. You know what I mean? So
I find that.
working out situations with banks, the current situation with my finances, and then investors and all that kind of thing. So it's just opening new doors to new possibilities for the same purpose of constantly reinvesting till I get to a position where anything I want to do, I can just do without outsourcing, basically. So that's my...
Just I guess it's not clear in my mind. I'm asking you about self-sufficiency,
Yeah.
and you're telling me about reinvestment. If you're
You
telling me
said
about
that's how I'm going to get there,
if
innit?
you're telling me about but it would almost sound to me that you are already self-sufficient, but you're going to another level.
I'm
where do we draw the
self-sufficient. No, I am self-sufficient to some extent because I don't actually have to do... No, I can do what I want in terms of... I've got different businesses in it, so I can choose to spend more time working on one than the other. But within them, I'm still having to work hard somewhat. You know what I mean? So I just want to get it down to a point where, like you said, I can dream. And when I dream, I just give out instructions and it just happens. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Rather than having to go there. You know what I mean?
I think that's a
like you
common
said,
factor
like,
here.
It's the truth. Like the less time you can work, the more time you can think, dream, and your ideas just become bigger and bigger. That's what 2024 is for me, basically. Yeah. Is just understanding, like 2023 was all about numbers, followers, engagement, all of that. 2024 is all about finances now, and really negotiating what finances is and pushing it to a different level now. You get it?
Does everybody feel like that?
Similar. I think there's a common factor of it's come up a few times now. People want their time back so they can think and vision.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's a process of when you've done the years of grafting, when you've tried different methods, and it's literally you're like, actually, I've come to the realization that I need my time. My time is best spent in bringing imagination to life,
100%.
and that is invaluable.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Getting there for everyone is a different journey. That's the key thing as well. You know what I mean? And sometimes you might even think that you're struggling to get there, and you might even just be there. You just didn't even know it. Do you get what I mean? Like, so sometimes just to sit back for a second and understanding what's around you and how you can utilize it I'm running with this year, and I'm not gonna stop. You're only ever 6 months away from being a millionaire. You know what I mean? So you can do the same thing and stay the same, but you can constantly reinvest, or you can constantly innovate and get to a position that you never even imagined because of how much you snowboard, basically, for want of a better word.
Word.
You know
Like
what?
it's never that far away.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean? It's never ever that far away. And sometimes we put time scales on things that, like, oh, I'm gonna work for 2-3 years and then this and that, and you know what I mean? Like, where it never had to be that way. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You just needed to work smart at the right time, yeah, and to get the results that you need. Yeah.
Craig, you've covered self-sufficiency a bit, but let me just ask you this succinct question.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you are self-sufficient at this point?
Yes, I do.
So where do you go from here in self-sufficiency? Does the definition of self-sufficiency start to change, where initially it might be financial, but now it's...
I think my interpretation is subjective. I think it changes depending on where you're at and what you're doing. So similar to what Speedy said, that I can choose to do nothing if I don't want to. Any week I choose not to do, I can choose not to. But I know that's not sustainable long term, because I know that I have a purpose and a mission. And those things are, as I've just mentioned, one, I want to put my family in a better situation. I want to put my community in a better situation. So the word that was utilized was reinvest, and the earlier question that I was asked was about relying upon funding. So it's not that funding is not needed, but one of the things that I've realized is that in order for me to get things moving, it's going to require equity. So then that means then, in terms of the other businesses, to the point that was just made, I can put a little bit more time into one or two of them that would be able to put me in a situation where I can bring in a team and have individuals that can enable me to step away, so I can dream, I can be imaginative, I can be innovative. That would then enable me to do the next move, and then the next move, and then the next move. So we were able to start at one particular place in one of the companies, and we had one children's home. Now we're in the position to open up the second one, and then the conversation will be in the next 12 months' times is, what then does the third one look like, and then so on and so forth. So for me, it's about having the leverage and having the freedom to be able to do the things that you do. And I'm not just talking about something being financial here. I'm thinking it's also a journey, and that's why you heard me use the word therapy a number of times, because I've realized, especially since COVID-19, how much I needed it, and how productive I am now that I'm utilizing it again, because something wasn't right with the engine. You know, I'm moving, but something wasn't right. So that exploration and being curious about myself, it's helped me to understand why I'm moving a particular type of way, and then how can I be more efficient. So what I've learned is about rest, and that's why I spoke about the book that I'm reading, that talks about, you know, one of the challenges to liberation is stopping and imagining and dreaming and thinking and being innovative, because what people want is for me to keep working. And if I keep working, there's a possibility that I'm going to be unhealthy. And if I'm unhealthy, then I'm out the game. And if I'm in hospital, then someone else can then occupy that space. So part of that liberation journey is understanding that there's also a capitalist game that is being played, and we can't fall short of that.
Daniel, self-sufficient? Are you self-sufficient? What is it? How are you going to get there?
Nah, I still think it's establishing my brand and everything that way. I hear what you're saying entirely, but I think where the difference is between the art side of things and the business side of things, it's a case of what I do now, I'd do it for free. You get me? Like, it don't feel like I'm grinding, I'm wearing myself down, because I'd happily do it. It's just I can make peace from it, and that's good for me. And now I just need to do it in a way where people are coming to me and it's on my terms. You want, as you said, if you got two people wanting the same day, you want it from me. I can only provide that because it's my style. my artwork, you're gonna have to cater. If I'll give him this, you gotta choose another date, or you're not getting it. That's when I feel self-sufficient, because I'm demanding when you choose.
So self-sufficiency, like, it's funny that you haven't noted finance in it, which is, there's no issue with that. I'm just looking at it from your point of view now, where it's like your value is derived from someone's, like, the demand that's put on you.
If they're coming to me, then I can demand the price on it. So finance is always there, but the more people that are coming to me for what I do, the more I can charge. So it just...
So is it fair to say self-sufficiency is, I got people knocking on my door consistently,
basically,
because I know what that's going to turn into.
that's what it is. If you can book up, for example, a year of your diary with bookings, you know that's coming in. And if it ain't coming in, they've hit you with deposits anyway, so you know what's catered to. You with me?
And it doesn't have to be economic, just to make that very clear as well. And that's why I'm going back to Speedy's question earlier on, is that we do loads of work in the community for free. I just don't feel like we need to, say that we're doing, people get touchy when it comes to this type of work, especially the work that we do and what do you do for free versus what you don't. So we sponsor a lot of charity organisations, and part of that sponsoring of the charity organisations, because we again recognise that funding is a major issue, commissioning is a major issue, and opportunity is a major issue. So if we can be an entity within the community that can provide people with finance in order to do that, it makes us feel good.
No, I hear that, but what I mean is, it's a sense of like, you might have a hobby, you go home and do your hobby, art or tattooing. I would just happily do that as a hobby. You get the difference, like.
Well, making children smile is my hobby.
Yeah, I hear.
Yeah. So that's my point I'm making.
Okay.
So wherever wherever I would charge a university for some money, I can go to my ends in Ladywood, Handsworth, Winton Green, Hockley, Ladywood, and I can say, yeah, that's for free. It's not a problem. So it's about choosing, and again, it's about being in a position where I'm able to do that, and that's why I mentioned having a team. So no, Craig potentially can't go to the ends and deliver it, but I've got a host and team of individuals that are just as sharp, more relatable in the community, but they've gone through my process of how I would like to deliver in that particular way, and keeping those children smile.
Yeah, it's freedom of choices. There's a freedom of choices.
And I think that's tied to self-sufficiency. So that's why I keep saying that I'm with you with the point that you make. I don't think that we're actually on the same page. We're just looking at this angle from completely two different points. So when, C was asking the question earlier on, and he was talking about just trying to make sense, I see that questioning and line of questioning 7 years ago in the way that I was also looking at this particular thing, and it goes back to the point that Junior and Michael made, is that it's about timing. So in the next 5 years, I'm now talking about, I want to be talking to governments about how do we, so then you can ask that question again about being self-sufficient, and my position may change then as well. It's not static. That's my point. The position's not static, and I think if we can remember that everything's always going to be fluid and it's going to come with the time, who knows what that 6 months in the next time will potentially look like. But I would like to believe that in the next 6 months, not necessarily financially, but I mean more of a better educational and strategic position, that the second that I get that tick box, and to me, I don't need a PhD, but I know it's going to enable me to open certain doors that I'm going to be able to open better situations for my community that I grew up in.
I feel like Craig may be at a point where you are so sufficient enough that your level of sufficiency is now measured by how sufficient you can make others.
Yeah.
Which is a bit different.
Yeah.
Like I'm in a position where I'm probably sufficient, but I'm just touching on that and just trying to understand, well, how do I make someone else as sufficient? That's a new path altogether. Sam?
Yeah, man. I feel like I'm self-sufficient, but like I said, I'm trying to get less self-sufficient. Going back to what's been mentioned a couple of times on the table,
That's something new.
I want my time back for dreaming and visioning. There's other. I love business. It's not just property that I want to be doing. I want to experience other things through business, creating a product, selling a subscription. For me, in business, if you love business and business is your passion, these are things that you want to accomplish. These are the journeys you want to go through. You want to take an idea and create a successful product, whatever that product may be. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
What would it take to make that switch? What does 2024 look like for you? What steps you're putting in place to work towards that goal?
Delegating, raising more finance to be able to delegate more, to have that time to make more money. It's like an ecosystem. Yeah, that's what it looks like for me.
Okay.
I didn't get the question, come out the room, but I think I've caught it. What?
Nah.
Have you gone back to the
Yeah,
original
we
question?
were just finishing off.
Yeah, the original question. Obviously, I'm definitely self-sufficient, like in the sense of, oh no, that's not, like, I am,
You are.
but like, man, I'm working hard though, and I can feel the blunt of the work, and I don't like that. I don't want that. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I said, I still feel like I am you, but I've got to that point where I realize I want to be able to pick and choose what I work on, rather than having to work on everything that comes to me because I have bills to pay. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if this project comes, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. If this one comes, I don't want to do it, but guess what? I got somebody else that can handle it, and I can still get paid for it. That's where I'm at now. Do you get what I'm saying? Whereas before, my mindset was, I was all about putting my energy into the things that I want to do, because that would then attract more things that I want to do. Do you get me? And that has worked to a certain degree, but at the same time, you can't scale. And at some point, like it's not going to snowball. Do you get what I'm saying? And I've just found myself getting into this mad rat race of just running, bro. And I'm tired. I'm tired. You get me?
Real.
And I without sounding like a narcissist or an idiot, but I think that I'm sick, bro. I feel like I am very good at what I do, and I just need, like, financial. I just need everything to just feel how I feel about myself. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's just about making slight adjustments. So one of the main things that I'm doing in 2024 is I'm going to employ people. I ain't got the money, but guess what? I'm paying them, bro. I'm paying people to do stuff because I believe that that's where the growth is going to be. Do you get what I'm saying? If I've got somebody doing something that then allows me not to have to do that, I can focus on doing what I want to do. And if I do what I do to the best of my ability, it's only going to bring in more work. And if that person's doing what they need to do, it's only, do you get what I'm saying? It's only going to bring in more, and then that's where it's going to flourish. So that's my only thing for 2024 is like take risks. Any opportunity that I see that's there, I'm going to take it. But I'm also going to pay people to do things that I'm not good at doing and that I don't want to do, so I can do more of the things that I want to do.
It sounds like there's a common theme here where people either want their time back to do what they want to do, or they want to continue to do what they want to do and just be paid for it. But what I'm not hearing is the idea of I'm willing to just grind, graft, do whatever I need to do to get to the bag. And I guess that comes with a level of maturity as well. Because 10 years ago, I would have been like, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to get it in. We're going to get it in. But now...
Man, I got kids and families, bro.
Yeah.
That don't work no more.
I'll put a spin on that, though. I'm ready to go to the next level. I feel like I definitely need to make myself uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That be financially, by mentally, and to really push myself. Because I feel like sometimes when you get to when you get to a level, you get comfortable, and if you want to break that barrier, you have to make yourself uncomfortable again. So I'm ready to step into that zone.
And you know what else as well? I realize that there's a lot of people out here that what I find easy, people find amazing. So with that being said, I like to show people how easy it can possibly be, rather than them thinking everything's so hard and looking at me like I'm some amazing person, because I feel stressed too. You get what I'm saying? But there's people that would love to be in this position. So where I've come from, a place where, I've been to jail, come out, and I've created these opportunities. When I'm seeing similar people that I know and have been in similar positions to me, I'm having to tell them, yo, just come down here. You know what I'm saying? I'll show you it's not what you think, in terms of I'm not no big, I paid all this money for all these things to happen. No, bro. I patterned it like this, that, and the other. You got the same resources in front of you. You just need to know that it's there. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I think I come from a different angle where, and I respect that, and I have to, salute you for what you've been able to achieve. I guess in my world, and I think this is more probably an industry thing. There is no shortcut to get to where I've got to. And that's what I was saying earlier on, is that I want to remind young people, my whole mission, when someone says to me, Craig, what do you want to do? I want to create a standard. And in order to get that standard, you have to go through a process, and that process ain't easy. And I think being able to go through that process and come out, somewhat would say quite successful, I've used that as my unique selling point. As I keep saying that, I'm hearing what you're saying, to enable me to leverage the relationships. When you think about what people see me doing now, the children's homes and that, how do you think I got into these positions? Because I'm a trusted individual in the city that individuals at certain levels are like, it's Craig? Like it's a no-brainer. So when someone else is like, yo, Craig, how comes I can tell you all of the kind of legislation and but there's another dimension that we haven't touched on, which is relationships and networks, and the importance of those networks, and being a trusted network becomes important. And I think that links to an earlier conversation where people destroy those networks, especially when they've done things like get funding and they've just gone left teeth to money and all those types of things. You're never going to get to that. So my whole, I guess, part of my mission is, how do I show the younger generation that, you know what, these things that you see me doing, you know what, whilst we can, you know, get to that particular level, I'm just showing you what it was. I left school, I'm dyslexic, bro. I've left school, no GCSEs. Like, I'm doing a PhD. So my whole goal was, I wanted to leave B18, Hockley, Winston Green, and show all the mandem, you can do this, but it comes with a little bit of sacrifice. It's going to come with a little bit of discipline. And that discipline is that you're going to even need to sit with mentors, people that have knowledge in certain areas, and you're going to have to take from them and be humble and patient and have faith that you are going to get there. And I promise you, when you get to that end of that journey, you're going to be able to do some of the things that you be able to dream that you can do. And of course, there's going to be shortcuts, but there's a difference. And I think I'll talk about this in my PhD. I'm not going to try to get too intellectual on everybody, but I'm going to go back to that particular point. So earlier on, you asked me about some of the political changes. So I said 2012 became a really interesting year. And in 2012, when those policies then came in, the use and the need for the standard to work with children and young people dipped. So when I qualified before that particular point, you could not work with children and young people unless you had a level of skill and knowledge. So what happened after that period, there was kind of an opening for individuals, not necessarily that were qualified or had a certificate, but it was individuals that had something called lived experience. And then what happened for about 10 years is people with lived experience were the ones that were dominating these particular markets. Now, I don't have an issue with people with lived experience, but then what starts to happen statistically is that we're starting to find now there's massive issues to do with safeguarding, massive issues to do with conflict of interest, massive issue with people not being professional, massive issues between relationships between young people and the systems and those individuals that are supposed to be advocates and supporting those children and young people. And now we're asking the question, where have we gone wrong? And I'm saying it's because we've dropped the standard. And I'll go back to my original point. My work is about how do we get that standard back. And I'm not saying that the standard has to be the traditional going to college and university, but we have to get a standard that enables us that if you want to be able to work with these children, like you do in psychology, like in order for you to work with children and young people, you have to demonstrate that you've gone through a particular board and we recognize you to be a part of that board to work with children and young people. You can't just say, yeah, man, just come from the ends and I've been around, I know how the man them think. that don't make no sense, does it? But you're gonna want somebody that's gone through some sort of, I'm gonna use the term academic rigor, that gets you to the point you can say, you know what, if you used to walk into the hospital right now, you needed an operation. Listen, you don't even need to know what the doctor even specializes in, but a man's gonna come in, good morning, my name is such and such, I specialize in this. It just sounds great, doesn't it? And then you might have a man that bosses the corner and says, yo, yeah, man, so don't know what's going on there, big man, but you know what, I'm going to just deal with you. You're going to be sitting there thinking, nah. And I use that analogy to explain the point. Anyone can use language and semantics to kind of fool people, but one thing about community, bro, is that we know the people that are really doing the work. And one thing about children and young people is they know who's real also as well. And I think that my biggest frustration is that we're all saying that we're part of this village, but the same village is destroying our children. I know individuals that beat their women, put hands on their women, that thief, that steal, that sell drugs, but are supposed to be working with our children and young people, and so-called supposed to be turning them away from the things that we're supposed to be fighting against. I don't do the water and oil thing, bro. You're either this or you're that. And I think that we have to also say people that do these things, we have to remove them from the community. Because I've got children, bro, and I'm not going to put my children in an environment with individuals that because they look good and because they talk the talk, that these individuals are going to be the ones that are saying that they're going to be providing the future for our children and young people. So where I meet them halfway saying, you know what, those individuals that have changed, that can demonstrate that they've changed their life, that really want to help the community, come with us, man, and let's go through some real processes that you're able to, you know, utilize your skills, your talent, and whatever that is, and bring that intersecting with the things that we're able to give and teach you, and then let's test it out in the community.
Can I ask, does that apply to someone that may not have the academic experience but has the lived experience but is willing to go through?
We welcome them people. That's my point. I'm saying I said I meet them halfway. So I'm saying it is about that, but I think we also have to address things that we don't talk about in the community. There's loads of paedophiles, there's loads of rapists, there's loads of individuals that are doing things but then expect to work with children and young people. And all I'm just saying here is that oil and water. You know, one thing I always say, and I never forget this, one of a young man said, I think he was on the podcast the other day, Rudy. And I remember he sent me a message about a year ago. It's probably one of the touching messages that I've ever got from a young person that I've worked with. And he said, Craig, you've always been real and you've never been a hypocrite. Enough of these people are out here saying that they want to help the youth. They're even disrespecting the workers that are doing the work in the community. Never once you've demonstrated this kind of one side you this and one side that. And that's my point. We have to be men and we have to be individuals that are part of the village that say, listen, if there's individuals that may damage our children and young people, we have to remove them. And you've seen the stories of individuals in the community that are just doing just friggery, but then yet still we're allowing these people to come in and poison our children and young people. And I'm just saying this and making it very clear. That's what I'm on. So when we talk about forget the money, I'm talking about the community. These are the conversations that we need to be having. Things that destroy and disrupt our community, we need to start looking at against it. We can't sit here and keep saying that, you know what, we want change, but at the same time when we want change, we're also allowing our young people to keep up one bag of foolishness, and we have to take a position. So my thing is, if you're going to be around people like myself, you have to take a position. I can't say to young people, listen, I'm down with you making this destructive music, but at the same time, I'm then vexed when one of our young people get killed in the community and I'm posting things need to change. Because this is what you see on social media. And I think that we've got this cognitive dissonance that we know that these are the things that are impacting our children and young people. We know that there's parents in the community that need help, need support. We know that our women in the community need help and support, but we're ignoring that. But the only time that we seem to kind of even show any kind of empathy and sympathy is when one of our children and young people die. And I'm saying that we need to start having more real conversations. So going back to the point when we're talking about where finance works, utilizing finance from our companies, and this is just our model, how we can utilize that in order to alleviate some of those issues, whether that is via education, whether that is via therapy, whether that is by putting young people in a situation where they can make something for themselves.
Yeah, man.
You want to say something? You know, just to kind of build on that and bring this to a close. I don't even want to add too much to that, but for context, people that are watching this, we've spoken a lot about being self-sufficient. We're talking about people that generally either are on the way out from working from anyone else or just don't work for anyone else. How long has it taken you to get to the position that you are in now? Because we can say all of this, but people need the context of time. Because again, when we talk about serving a community or running a business or becoming self-sufficient, we can only speak about this after like a decade of grind, graft, education, lived experience, and polishing yourself up so much you can now offer your value to the world. How long has it taken you to become the person you are now?
20 years. I left school, working in the community. Summerfield Youth Centre, Oakland Youth Centre, funny enough, I then became senior worker and a manager many years later. From that, I used to work for Connections, if everybody remembers Connections. From that, I was working at an information shop in West Bromwich. And following that, I was working in St. Basil's. For people, everyone that remember St. Basil's.
Yeah. We work with them now.
Still about.
Everybody remember the foyer going up Constitution
Yeah.
Hill. I don't know if that's still there.
That was the first spot for most
So
people.
I was doing support work in there. Then we were doing some work around domestic violence. And then I started doing work in colleges. And then it's just built over the years, having different experiences. And then when I went to Northern Ireland, I went to France, I went to Romania, Italy, Cyprus, America, the Caribbean. All of those kind of experiences solidified my point around how do we try to reduce some of the social ills in our community. And I just chose to specialize in the area of serious violence and harm. And when I talk about serious violence and harm, I'm not just talking about gangs. I'm also talking about criminal exploitation. I'm also talking about sexual exploitation. I'm also talking about far-right extremism. I'm also talking about religious extremism. So conflict and harm in a wider sense is where I specialize in, and my work is about how do we try to alleviate that. And I guess my own personal give back is that because I see so many systems that have essentially failed, that was partly the reason why developing a children's home to meet the needs of children that, are in care. And giving them the best and excellent service. That's just what I'm on.
Speedy, it was actually when you said people come to you and think you're doing something amazing, that you consider to be easy now.
Yeah.
But how long's your journey been? Like, you weren't always this person. The person 10 years ago wouldn't have been able to do this. It didn't. The person.
Nah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. I've been on a journey my whole life. You get what I'm trying to say? So
Where would you say your journey consciously started? Like, you know what? I've got to become a better person. I've got to make this happen.
I've always wanted to be a better person, but you can get caught up in it. So because you don't.
Even that is part of the journey. That's where the lived experience.
That's what I'm saying. Like me and my friends have always been like, yo, we want to do this, but we don't have nobody there to show us how. Do you get it? So then we end up getting caught up in ways of figuring out things ourselves, which ultimately are the wrong ways. You get what I'm saying?
Like
and then
you need a mentor there to tidy it up.
Nah, serious. That's what I'm saying. But then obviously them demons are always going to carry with you when you're trying to do better, and you're surrounded by certain things. You're trying to figure out how you can become the person that you're supposed to be. You get it? I don't believe I was meant for a certain life. It's just that.
That was what was available.
That's what was there. You get what I'm saying? And I believe that other people are similar as well. You get it? So.
100%.
And just talking on what Craig said in response, it's not about getting there fast. It's because none of us have got there fast.
None of us.
No one's got there fast because you've got to put the work in.
Yeah.
And it's not just that lived experience, is taking that now and then applying that academic rigor where you say, okay, let me actually analyze what I've gone through. Let me see how I can transfer those skills and apply them in a meaningful way with some proper systems, guidance and policies that I can package up and turn into a service that is valuable to the world, usable, and I can put a price on.
And mentorship. And
that's one of the things that will fast track you to that next level.
100%.
Yeah,
So
100%.
how long have you been on your journey for? For me, it was like you, and you picked up a camera.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't start from there. I would say from 2009.
Okay.
That's from when I've been
Consciously.
Yeah, consciously. Like I left uni. I left uni 2009, but it was March. I think it was March 2010. That's where I came up with CS Visuals.
But really, the uni should count as well.
Yeah, okay.
That's a foundation.
But then it goes back to straight out of school. Then it goes back to before I even left school. Then because like the moment I picked up the camera, I think it was a year after that. I knew that that's what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. So you could say from there, you get what I'm saying. But obviously, it's all been like a journey in figuring out. Okay, so where do I exist within that space? What area do I want to be an expert in? Just all of those kind of things, and it's all been a journey up to this point. So
and as people would say, they're seeing you do amazing. National Geographic's picking up his stuff, and you're saying, I'm still trying to be self-sufficient. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, sizes got you on the board, like
I hear it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it takes time. It takes time.
I think what it is. We need to also start practicing giving each other their flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's definitely also part of the mission. Whilst we're in this capitalist society, that's designed to break us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we have to, say, yo, Speedy, You get me? Levels. You get me? Keep pushing. We have to say CS
Yeah, man.
levels. Keep pushing. I have to say keep pushing. We have to keep saying keep pushing because we're not meant to be here in the positions. The way in which the systems are designed. You know, when we think about our grandparents. You know, depending on where your grandparents came from, the traps that were set for us. We've actually been privileged, enough of us to get to the position that we are. So when we're having these conversations, I guess from my particular lens, I don't want people watching this and thinking, it's about the journey and understanding the journey. And Dr. Frances Cress Welsing once said, before she passed, in order to challenge the system of white supremacy that's designed to capture all of us, and it's not based just on race, we need to know how to play the game. And that's where mentorship comes in. And I think the work that Omar is essentially doing is how do we understand the cheat codes in a quicker way than the next generation are doing that. And that's why I have to thank you as well for inviting me to those meetings, because one, it enabled me to be vulnerable. Two, it enabled me to be accountable amongst my peers. And number three, it was nice to be able to can share and pass that down, so I don't ever become a hypocrite of an individual that's got all of this wealth of knowledge and not being able to pass that down for free to my own community, so people can actually can utilize that as the blueprint. Look at the good, the bad, the strengths, the weaknesses, and say, you know what, I like what he does there, but I don't like that. I don't agree with what he's saying with that, but I'm going to move like that. That's what it's about. Nothing's not black and white, bro. It's about colors. It's about imagination. It's about innovation. And it's about having these conversations and how do we move ultimately forward. But I'll just end my point by just saying, have to give the man them their flowers and keep pushing.
Omar, how long have you been on your journey?
I'm a bit like Speedy, to be fair. I've always been searching for answers. What can I do more? What do they do that I'm not doing? Or how did they get there? How can I get there? And I think 2020 was probably the conscious part, whereas I had enough of a particular lifestyle. Like, I couldn't take no more. Conscious couldn't take it. Mind couldn't take it. My heart wasn't in it no more. And that's where it started, 2020 onwards. But before that, it's always been the same question. What is more? Like, I would look at my environment. It's like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't seem right. And I spent a few years with my nan, who is kind of very, she's a particular type of way. So when I lived in Gambia with her, she used to say certain things to me like, work hard, like, be around the right people, etc. Like, she was a head teacher, she's got her own schools, etc. And that stuck with me. So I knew what I was doing wasn't right. So the whole time I was kind of searching for answers, kind of losing my mind. Till 2020, I think I lost my mind, and then like a new mind was reborn. So I've been searching for answers now in different places, whether it's Instagram, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's YouTube. I'm starting to search for answers that are not in front of my face. So I'm ignoring my current environment, trying to search for a brand new one. So for me, it's been a life journey, and it's like every day I'm still tapping into that, because I don't think I'm very far away from where I was, because I can still hear some of the noise, I can still see some of the environment. So I don't think I'm very far away. I think I'm still going.
So it sounds like you're quite fresh into your journey, the conscious point of your journey.
Yeah, I'm still quite fresh. I'm still a newbie. Like, sometimes I'm still confused. Sometimes I might think, I have those moments. I'm still fresh. I'm still, like, it took me a while to even admit I've let go of a particular lifestyle. I had to humble the ego. I had to kind of destroy.
That's the thing.
What I always thought I was.
That's your identity.
And birth a brand new self in me. So I'm quite fresh, yeah. I'm fresh out the womb.
Okay. I'd probably say I'm about 12 years in. 12 years in, of consciously having a goal, working through certain things, learning things, reflecting on things, and saying, I know I can be better. I know what better looks like, and I'm going to work actively towards that goal. I feel like I've hit a point in my life now where I have the opportunity to make a real foundation for myself. I've moved around in a few different things, and I've finally settled on something that I feel like is righteous, it's worthy, it's respectable, and that is property and social housing. It's allowed me to build self-sufficiency, a level of stability. It's also allowed me to learn new things, because I don't have a history of health and social care at all. And it's now even making me think, maybe I actually need to go back to university. And I feel like this is now where I can make the switch with my lived experience, because I've done enough as a director, as a business owner, that I could probably enter straight onto like an MBA course.
Easy.
I could probably go straight to a master's course if I felt like I was ready to sit down and make that time, which would probably be like 2025 for me. Whereas you're saying, all right, I'm hiring everyone now, so 2024 I can go do my doctorate. I'd have to do that over 2024 and 2025. Right, listen, I don't have to work. I can go and do my academics.
And
now.
I just wanted to say that you don't necessarily have to go to university. I mean, I'm of the belief that you don't have to go uni at all. But I still believe in the standard. I think I keep using the word the standard. So providing you had, I don't know, a specialist in a particular type of area and you developed a mentoring relationship and you were learning key things about what it is that you need, I'll be cool with that. And I think just to make that clear, what I was just saying was that there's a lot of people that come into these environments and thinking they can fluke it, but that might be industry specific.
And you know, I totally hear you, and I think it is important to say, people, you don't have to go to university. You don't have to do all of that, as long as you consciously try to be.
But you do need to gain knowledge.
You have to get however you get it. For me, I am just looking for a certain standard. I'm looking for a certain understanding of what language are they speaking. How can I get in the room and I can show my credentials and they understand that? Well, we don't have to do the long talking for you to understand I know what I'm talking about. And I know what I'm talking about for the most part, but I also know there's probably a lot that I don't know that I talk on, but I can't talk on
and
confidently.
I think we had a recent meeting and spoke about those types of things in terms of, for example, you know, children's services is a particular lens they're looking at.
Which I've got a consultant for. I'm trying to just sit down like, so what do you mean by...
So whereas someone like me would just walk straight through and not be bothered whatever, because I know the language, and it's just about what's
easy for you is amazing to me.
100%. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. But on recognizing though, in order for me to get that language, it's been a process.
20 years.
20 years.
I mean, and
6 years in terms of learning,
yeah,
but 20 years in terms of practice.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to get here is, it takes time, man.
Yeah.
It takes time. Like, really getting to like the 15, 20 year mark is where you start to gain the excellence and the mastery.
You need that 10,000 hours.
You have to. Yeah. And that's what you're saying. You can't skip the 10,000 hours. No. You can't try and jump in at 2,500. Like, man, I've done 2.5 years. I've been out here. It feels like 10,000.
If there is ever a shortcut, it's always going to come at a consequence, and you will have to go back and redo those 7.5 hours.
The worst thing is, it seems like it's not even coming at a consequence to the people that are 2.5 in, that are trying to take the shortcut.
It's coming at a consequence of the people that you're saying that you want to serve. And that's why I said that our children and young people are dying. Yep. So I know a lot of people that haven't been bothered to, because they're thinking that their experience is enabled them to kind of get to the levels that they are. And sadly, when we hear of the news where anywhere in the country where a child or young people dies, what happens then is a serious case review starts, and then the question,
and then you start finding out
you
ain't done his 10,000 hours.
These are the individuals that these kids have been working with, and these are the people that have been saying that they can do this work. And when you start to realize something basic things, reporting, understanding safeguarding, understanding that things have to be monitored in a particular type of way, because a lot of people just say, it's long, I'm doing my thing. And I meet people, I meet professionals all the time that say, I'm just doing my thing, I do a good job, and no one's not knocking at the fact that they don't do a good job. But I'm saying there's another level, and that other level is where the safeguarding part comes in. And sadly, the stories that I hear, as you can imagine in my work, I just look at some young brothers in the community that are really good brothers with that lived experience, and I just think you've just let yourself down. And that might be pride, that might be ego. And I think it's also about just humbling the fact that, you might need somebody that's been in the game. It doesn't have to be me, but anyone that's been in the game in your field that you can learn from and look at what the pitfalls are.
But just to be clear, you are saying that it actually could be you, and you have a service
100%,
for that.
100%. But I have mentors. I've got mentors that have been doing this for years, and I don't agree with everything that they do. But I understand the thinking that goes behind it. And when I go into their rooms and there's books and there's books and there's books, I'm like, what is it about that? And they're able to articulate what's actually going on.
Especially in your industry as well. Like you said, that the lived experience is one part, but the safeguarding is so important, because we're talking about human life here. 100%. Young human life.
Sam, how long have you been on your journey?
Journey of a man in business, opportunist. I'd say since school, the need to be self-sufficient. buy trainers and clothes, hustling
Yeah,
in
that's what
school,
they-
hustling in school.
that's
That's
what
where
it-
that's where it
that's what it is,
started,
that's what it
and then exit in school, and then
The needs get bigger.
the needs get bigger, and that's when the kind of the life into becoming a product of your environment and doing things for financial gain came in. But I still say that is part of the journey. I use some of those skills that say I learned on the roads in legal business now. So it's
Transferable.
100%, and I think that's what needs to be taught to the young people as well.
The transfer.
Yeah, the transferable skills. Like you're good at this, okay. Then how can we bring this into the legal world? Educate them. Do you actually know what your skills are? Look, this is what you're good at, and this is what it looks like in the real world, and this is how you would make money from it in this.
And that's what's missing from the education system.
100%.
So a lot of us are raising awareness and telling young people, but what we're not doing is showing them how. Typical example, I do a lot of work in youth offending. I hear workers say to, young guys that might be pending a charge of something to do with drug dealing, or they're on a particular order. And I've heard workers say, you'd be an amazing accountant. You'd be an amazing banker.
Sounds great.
Your skills are like so transferable. But then if you used to ask that person, do you know how to open up a company on company's house? You're going to be like, what are you talking about? And that's my point. That's why things sound good until it requires the knowledge to be able to give that then information as the second level that takes you away from just the superficial conversation. Because what young people are saying is, okay, that sounds cool, but how?
So give me some steps then. Let's go. But the person don't know.
Don't know.
No,
And that's
real
so
talk.
going back to my point about having an understanding at certain levels, that's what you're able to kind of acquire through mentorship, through learning, and acquiring that particular standard.
No, definitely there needs to be a better standard. I can remember going on a think first course through probation, and then was all the young people. We was all sitting around in a circle, and the kind of the person leading the session was saying, write down like a dream or aspiration. And I said, I want to be a millionaire. She turned around, she goes, be realistic. And this is through a probation think first course. I was like, I'm in the wrong place, man.
Because they can't see.
Exactly. It's not
They-
real for them.
Because they're working so hard because of their caseloads. They don't have the opportunity to rest. They
And
don't have
dream.
the opportunity to dream. They don't have the opportunity to innovate. And it's funny because this is what I talk about in my research. So when I deliver to local authorities, one of the things I talk about is that they have to have an innovation day. It's radical. What do you mean an innovation day? A day when you're not working, but you're being innovative. And you can sit and think. So I do work with like Norfolk County Council Children's Service. So we have innovation days like every 3 to 4 weeks. And all we're doing is mapping,
brainstorming.
thinking, what are we doing? Where are the gaps? Where are the problems? And we choose one thing that's realistic and we move towards that. Because you've got so many caseloads, you don't have the opportunity to think. And I think when I go back to that point about resting, I think maybe that's what we need is better innovation days.
100%.
We need days where we can sit, we can think, we can communicate, we can understand each other better. And this is not just for the men, it's also for the women as well, because we're a village. It's also about the elderly as well. It's also about the young bucks. It's about that real village mentality. And I've always said that it takes a village to raise each other, but it also takes a village to destroy each other. And what are we doing? Are we raising people up or are we destroying? It's true. That's the question.
Chakki, how far are you into your journey?
Solid, fresh, like the art always from young, always from a kid.
What age?
Since I could pick up a pen and pencil, all them ones, like always been able to draw. Like that's just natural to me. The portraits thing, like I was doing it, but it wasn't like I enjoyed it. It was a case of I could do this. I could get money doing this. I'm gonna just do this then. It weren't benefiting me, and then obviously the tattooing allows the creativity to open up a bit more. You get me?
You found
But
it now.
I think that's my bag now, so that's why I'm pursuing that. But it's been a winding road up till here. You get me? Like 2 years into that, like being consistently on it.
I can remember us being in Vegas, man, and you're trying to get. We flew over with a picture for McGregor. No, Mayweather.
Nah,
Both of them.
Nah, it weren't. It was Ashley Phil frame, and we got it to him though.
Oh yeah.
Went to Floyd's.
Oh yeah, you
gym
like
and
when you
that.
Flew out on a last minute madness.
But yeah, like,
But it's, no, you don't just touch on that though, because it's like you flew out last minute with a picture of the person, went to the gym on the off chance you might see the guy, saw the guy.
correction, yeah.
Go on.
I did it on the plane.
That's what I'm saying. You get
Mad
me?
talent.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you just got the outliers where you just got the talent. The 10,000 hours is you just born.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, and I like 100% get that. You know, like some of my friends say to me all the time, like, I've got to the car park of the place that I'm about to deliver a full-blown conference. I ain't even started my presentation yet, but I'm up in 40 minutes. And my brethren's like, you're not.
That's where the value comes, though.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Everybody don't try that, though. You get me? He's done his 10,000 hours.
But those things are important, and I think that's where it looks like it's easy.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
know, like Karate Kid, I'm old school. You know, wax on, wax off.
But
You
you
never
wax
know
on, wax off.
When you throw me a box, I might break your hand in the block, and that's what because it then becomes natural.
Yeah.
You know, repetition, consistency.
Would you say that's where mastery comes in then?
100%, 100%, and that's where it is now. It's about me mastering a certain level where, as I said, I don't really need the stamp and my motivations for wanting to get to that level. From being 100, it started off just wanting to show the youths from the ends, but the real motivation came from my auntie that passed away a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And she just said, just keep going, because I was done with education, if I'm being honest. But that motivation shows that, you know what, I've got enough people that I'm responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also a requirement for me to complete, because there's so many people that are watching me,
Can't let them down.
and I can't let them down.
Yeah, man.
I think that's a good space to end it.
That was a good session, lads.
Yeah, man.
We'll see.
Therefore.
Yeah, man.
Peace out.
Thank you.
That one did run a bit, innit?
You know, I didn't press it.
Huh?
I didn't press record, you know.
Don't lie.
Nah, I'm saying shit.
Don't fucking joke.
Them things not even